This is a video on Class 12 Accounts, Chapter 13, Ratio Analysis. And today we are going to discuss on operating ratio. So operating ratio is a relationship between operating cost and revenue from operations, also known as net sales, into 100. That means this ratio is expressed as percentage. Now, what is operating cost? That is cost of revenue from operation or cost of goods sold plus operating expenses. Now, what are operating expenses? Operating expenses are those expenses which a business incurs through its normal business operations. That is rent, inventory cost, insurance, marketing cost, etc. Here are some other examples of operating expenses like employees' benefit expenses, depreciation and amortization expenses, selling and distribution expenses, office and administration expenses, and so on. Now, one more thing you have to keep in mind, that is, if direct expenses are included in employees' benefit expenses and other expenses, it should be excluded since it is already included in the cost of revenue from operation. So in some of the questions you will get a balance sheet or a statement of PL, and also there will be some notes to account where in the PL you will get some direct statement of PL, you will get some direct expenses, and in notes to account they will be further subdivided. This direct expenses will be further subdivided. In that cases we have to include and exclude some of the things, so we can discuss it later on while we solve some questions. So let's start with the practical question from GK Goel, question number 86. So net revenue from operation is 12 lakh, credit revenue from operation is 8 lakh, gross profit is 3 lakh, office expenses 80,000, selling expenses 40,000, loss by fire 20,000. So first thing what we have to find out is the cost of revenue from operation or cost of goods sold, which is equal to net revenue from operations minus gross profit. That is 12 lakh net revenue from operations minus 3 lakh gross profit, which is equal to rupees 9 lakh. Now operating cost is equals to cost of revenue from operations plus operating expenses. So my COGS amount is 9 lakh plus operating expenses. Here there are two operating expenses, that is office expenses of 80,000 and selling expenses of 40,000. Now talking about this loss by fire. Now this loss by fire is not an operating expense because this is not incurred in a normal business operation. This is an abnormal loss. So we will not include this. Therefore my operating cost is rupees 10,20,000. Now putting it in the formula, that is operating profit is equal to operating cost divided by revenue from operations into 100. Operating cost is 10,20,000 divided by revenue from operation is 12 lakh into 100, that is equals to 85%. Next question, question number 87. Compute operating ratio from the following. Here a statement of profit and loss is given, in which we have revenue from operation 24 lakh, add other incomes 20,000, total 24 lakh 20,000. Expenses, that is cost of materials consumed 14 lakh 10,000, changes in inventories of finished goods and work in progress minus 30,000, employees benefit expenses 2 lakh 82,000, finance cost 20,000, depreciation and amortization expenses 60,000, other expenses 1 lakh 20,000, total 18 lakh 62,000. Profit before tax, that is subtracting expenses from total revenue, that is 5 lakh 58,000. There is also a notes to account in which the other expenses has been subdivided into office expenses 54,000, loss by fire 50,000, donation 16,000. So let's start from this cost of revenue from operation. We need COGS. So cost of revenue from operation is, here we have from here cost of materials consumed, change in inventories and direct expenses. So we have written that formula, that is cost of materials consumed plus change in inventories plus employees benefit expense, which is 14,10,000, that is cost of materials consumed, minus, why minus? Because change in inventories is a negative balance. So we have written here minus 30,000 plus employee benefit expenses of 2,80,000. So total is 16,62,000. So my operating expenses, here operating expenses, if you see, we have depreciation and amortization expense and another other expenses. Finance cost is a part of non-operating expenses, so it is not included. Other expenses, as we have seen in the notes to account, that other expenses were subdivided, and we have office expenses which will be included in operating expenses. Rest others are not part of operating expenses. So in operating expenses, the amount of depreciation and amortization cost is 60,000 plus 54,000 from other expenses. So that is 1,14,000. So therefore, the operating cost is cost of revenue from operation, which is 16,62,000 plus operating expenses, that is 1,14,000, is equal to rupees 17,76,000. Now putting it in the formula, that is operating ratio equals to operating cost divided by revenue from operations into 100. 17,76,000 divided by 24 lakh into 100 is 74%. The last question of this part, question number 88. Calculate cost of revenue from operation. Operating ratio is 90%, office expenses 30,000, selling expenses 20,000, sales 7 lakh, sales return 40,000. Now we'll start with the formula, that is operating ratio. Since operating ratio is given, so operating ratio is equals to cost of revenue plus operating expenses, or what we call it as operating cost. So we have written the formula for operating cost, that is cost of revenue from operations plus operating expenses divided by net revenue from operations into 100. So operating ratio is 90%, so I've written 90 by 100, and in this side we have written cost of revenue is unknown. So we have written the full thing, that is cost of revenue plus operating expenses. We have office expenses of 30,000 and selling expenses of 20,000, that we have written, divided by sales minus sales return, that is 7 lakh minus 40,000. So here we have 9 by 10 is equals to cost of revenue plus 50,000 divided by 6,60,000. So cross multiplying, 9 into 6,60,000 divided by 10. On the right hand side we have cost of revenue from operations plus 50,000. So in the left hand side the amount stands to 5,94,000, and we'll bring this 50,000 and subtract. So therefore my cost of revenue from operation is 5,44,000. So that's all for today's class. Thank you.